The December wind cut through the loop like shattered glass. And inside Chicago's most exclusive restaurant, no one noticed the man who just fell. They froze, $90 entrees cooling, 70 rich faces pretending not to see the danger at their feet. Except one. "Sir, can you hear me? Stay with me." Keisha Monroe, 14 hours into a double shift, knelt beside a dying stranger. She didn't know he was Min Yoongi, the man the Chicago underworld calls boss. She only knew everyone else walked away. By the time the sirens wailed, one black waitress had just saved a Korean Mafia kingpin and stepped into a world where debts are sacred. And saving a life might cost her everything. Everyone walked past. When the Korean Mafia Boss collapsed, except one black waitress, the December wind cut through Chicago's loop like broken glass, driving sleet against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Apex, the kind of restaurant where reservations required 3 months' notice and a credit card that didn't flinch at 4-digit charges. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in Italian linen, while outside, the city hunched against the cold. Keisha Monroe's feet had stopped hurting around hour 9. By hour 12, they'd gone numb. Now, pushing into her 14th hour of a double shift, she moved through the dining room with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd learned to ignore her body's protests. The tray balanced on her left palm carried 3 appetizers worth more than her weekly rent. Her right hand smoothed her black apron, checking for the 3rd time that her name tag sat straight. Details mattered at Apex. 1 crooked pin, 1 misplaced fork, and Marcus would write her up. 3 write-ups meant termination, and termination meant Destiny's after-school program fees went unpaid. She delivered the plates to table 7, a couple who didn't look up, didn't say thank you, didn't acknowledge her existence beyond a dismissive wave. Keisha smiled anyway. The smile was armor, professionally applied and impenetrable. Near the host stand, a commotion rippled through the usual dinner murmur. The front doors burst open, admitting a gust of winter and a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a different world entirely. His black wool coat, despite being soaked through, probably cost more than Keisha's car. His face, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that scanned the room with predatory awareness, belonged on a movie screen. 3 men flanked him, their movements synchronized, their attention cataloging every exit, every patron, every potential threat. Keisha recognized power when she saw it. She'd grown up on the South Side, where power wore different faces but carried the same weight. This man wasn't just wealthy, he was dangerous. He took 4 steps into Apex before his expression changed. The confidence cracked, replaced by something raw. Pain, maybe, or fear. His hand clutched his chest, his breath came sharp and shallow. The 3 men with him moved closer, but he waved them back with surprising force. His mouth opened, words forming in a language Keisha didn't understand. Korean, she thought, but the universal language of distress needed no translation. Then his knees buckled. The sound of his body hitting the marble floor echoed in the sudden silence. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Forks hovered. 73 people in designer clothes and careful makeup turned to look at the fallen man, and not one moved to help. Keisha watched a woman in pearls meet the man's eyes, then deliberately turn away. She watched a businessman in a Tom Ford suit pull out his phone, not to call for help, but to check the time. She watched the host, young and blonde and terrified, take 3 steps backward instead of forward. Something cold and familiar settled in Keisha's stomach. She'd seen this before. Different place, different circumstances, but the same calculation happening behind dozens of pairs of eyes. Not my problem. Too complicated. Someone else will handle it. No one else was handling it. Keisha's tray clattered onto the bar. Her feet were already moving. She dropped to her knees beside the fallen man, her server's apron spreading across the wet marble. Up close, she could see the pallor beneath his olive skin, the way his pupils had dilated, the fine tremor in his hands. His breathing was rapid but shallow, his pulse visible at his throat, too fast, too irregular. "Sir, can you hear me?" Her voice came out steady, surprising her. "Sir, I need you to focus on me." His eyes found hers. Even through pain, they were intense, searching her face with an expression she couldn't name. Surprise, maybe, or recognition of something he hadn't expected to find. "What's your name?" she asked, checking his pulse with fingers that remembered training from another lifetime. Nursing school, before the money ran out, before everything fell apart. "Can you tell me your name?" "Min." His voice was accented, rough with pain. "Min Yoongi." "Okay, Yoongi, I'm Keisha. You're going to be okay, but I need someone to call 911. She raised her voice without looking away from him. "Someone call an ambulance, now." The silence that followed was deafening. "Are you serious?" Keisha's voice cracked with disbelief. She turned to face the room, making eye contact with the nearest table. "He needs help. Call 911. The man in the Tom Ford suit stood, tossed his napkin on the table, and walked toward the exit. Others followed. They were leaving. Actually leaving rather than help or even witness whatever this was. "I've got it." The words came from behind the bar. Jackson, the bartender, held up his phone. "Ambulance is on the way." Yoongi's hand shot out, gripping Keisha's wrist with surprising strength. "No hospital." His accent thickened with urgency. "Too dangerous. You just collapsed. You need medical attention." Hospital means questions. Questions mean... He switched to Korean, speaking rapidly to the three men who'd finally moved closer. One of them, tall with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, knelt on Yoongi's other side. "Boss, we need to move you," Scar said in English, though his attention fixed on Keisha with open suspicion. "Now, before—" "Sir, you need to let me do my job," Keisha interrupted. "I don't care who you are or what you're running from. Right now, you're a man who needs help, and I'm giving it to you." Yoongi's grip on her wrist tightened. Something shifted in his expression. That calculating assessment she'd seen in his eyes when he first entered, now directed at her with laser focus. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be? Everyone else is." Everyone else walked away. Keisha gently removed his hand from her wrist and checked his pupils again. "I didn't." "Ms. Monroe?" Marcus's voice cut through the moment like a blade. Her manager stood 3 feet away, his face flushed with anger. Or was it fear? "Step away from the customer, immediately." "He's not a customer. He's a person in medical distress." "You're creating a scene. This is completely inappropriate." Keisha looked up at Marcus, then at Yoongi, then at the room full of people who'd chosen their comfort over someone's life. Something crystallized in that moment, sharp and clear. "You know what's inappropriate, Marcus? 70 people watching someone die because helping might be inconvenient." She turned back to Yoongi. "Your pulse is steadying. That's good. Can you tell me what happened? Did you take anything? Any medications?" "Just wine. At lunch." Yoongi's breathing was evening out, though pain still etched lines around his eyes. Something was wrong with it. "I tasted it too late." "Poisoned?" The word came out flat. Keisha's world had just tilted sideways, but she kept her hands steady, kept her voice calm. "You think someone poisoned you?" "I don't think. I know." "Ms. Monroe, you're fired." Marcus's words were crisp, final, effective immediately. "You can collect your things from—" "She's not fired." Yoongi's voice, though strained, carried absolute authority. "She's under my protection, and anyone who attempts to terminate her employment will answer to me." "Sir, I don't think you understand." "I understand perfectly." Yoongi sat up slowly, Keisha's hands supporting his back, despite her racing thoughts. "I understand that your establishment allowed a man to collapse and provided zero assistance. I understand that this woman—" He looked at Keisha again, and something in that gaze made her breath catch. showed more courage than every wealthy coward in this room. I understand exactly where value lies. Scar helped Yoongi to his feet. 2 more men had materialized from somewhere, forming a protective circle. The sirens Keisha had been waiting for wailed in the distance, growing closer. "The ambulance," she started, "is unnecessary now." Yoongi straightened his coat, and just like that, the vulnerability vanished behind a mask of controlled power. Only his eyes, when they met hers, held warmth. "Thanks to you. You still need to be seen by a doctor." "I have a doctor, one I trust." He pulled out a phone, spoke rapidly in Korean, then returned his attention to Keisha. "Where do you live?" Every instinct she'd honed on the south side screamed danger. "Why?" "Because I'm about to make you an offer, and I'd prefer to do it somewhere my enemies haven't already identified." His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You saved my life tonight. That creates a debt. In my world, debts are sacred." "I don't want anything from you." "I know. That's precisely why you'll get everything." Marcus made a strangled sound. "Mr. Min, if this is about the restaurant's liability, this is about honor." Yoongi cut him off without looking away from Keisha. "A concept you clearly don't understand." He addressed Keisha again. "I need somewhere safe for the next few hours, somewhere unexpected. Will you help me?" She should say no, should walk away from this dangerous, intense man and his criminal implications and his talk of poison and enemies. Should collect her purse, go home to Destiny and pretend this never happened. But she'd learned long ago that should and would rarely aligned. "I have a 1-bedroom in Bronzeville," she heard herself say. "My daughter's at my mom's tonight. It's small and there's no doorman, but it's clean." Yoongi's expression softened in a way that transformed his face. "That sounds perfect. This is insane." "Probably." He held out his hand, not demanding, but offering. "But you've already done the insane thing by helping me. Might as well see where it leads." Keisha looked at his outstretched hand, looked at Marcus's outraged face, looked at the room full of people who'd already forgotten the man who'd collapsed, returning to their expensive meals and expensive conversations. Looked at her apron, stained with winter sleet and marble dust. She'd been invisible to these people for 3 years, worked doubles and triples, smiled through condescension, swallowed every microaggression because she needed the money. And when it mattered, when someone's life hung in the balance, they'd looked away. But this man, this dangerous, powerful man, had looked at her like she was the only person in the room who mattered. Keisha took his hand. "Okay," she said, "but we're taking the green line. Your fancy cars are too obvious." Yoongi laughed, the sound rough but genuine. "The green line it is." As they walked toward the exit, flanked by Yoongi's men, Keisha didn't look back at Apex, didn't look back at Marcus or the gawking diners or the job she'd just lost. She looked forward into the winter night and whatever waited beyond it. Titur Fanis. Revelation. The Green Line train car smelled like industrial cleaner and wet wool. Keisha sat beside Yoongi while his 3 men arranged themselves strategically. Scar by the connecting door, the other 2 at opposite ends of the car. The handful of other passengers, sensing something they couldn't name but instinctively understood, moved to different sections. "They're scared of you," Keisha observed, watching a teenager with headphones relocate 3 rows away. "They're smart." Yoongi leaned his head against the window, his reflection ghostly against the darkness outside. "You should be scared, too. I'm a black woman riding public transit in Chicago. I learned to navigate fear a long time ago." She studied him in profile. "Who are you, Min Yoongi?" "Does it matter?" "You're in my life now. That makes it matter." He turned to face her, and in the fluorescent light, she could see the exhaustion beneath his composure. "I'm a businessman. Import-export, primarily. I also provide services to my community. Services that require bodyguards and involve poisoning. Services that make me a target, yes. The Mafia. She said it flatly, watching for his reaction. You're in the Korean Mafia. Yoongi didn't flinch. That's a simplified term, but essentially accurate. My family has controlled certain interests in Chicago's Korean community for 3 generations. We protect our own. We settle disputes. We ensure order. And make money doing it. Substantial money, yes. He held her gaze. Does this change things? Keisha considered. She should feel horror, revulsion, fear. Instead, she felt a strange calm, like a lock clicking into place. What did you do to get poisoned? Refused to merge territories with a rival organization. They took it personally. Will they come after you again? Undoubtedly. And anyone around you becomes a target. Yes. His jaw tightened. Which is why I'm giving you a choice right now. You can get off at the next stop, take this, he pulled an envelope from his coat, and disappear. There's enough cash to cover 6 months' expenses while you find new employment. My men will ensure no one connects you to me. Keisha took the envelope, felt its weight, opened it enough to see the bills inside, hundreds, maybe 50 of them, $5,000, more money than she'd seen in one place in years. Or, she asked, or you come with me tonight. Let me repay the debt properly. Let me protect you from the consequences of your compassion. Yoongi's voice dropped lower. Let me show you that not everyone in my world is without honor. The train screeched into the 47th Street station. The doors hissed open. Keisha closed the envelope and handed it back to him. Keep your money. I helped you because it was right, not for payment. Then why are you still here? She thought about destiny, about the eviction notice hidden in her nightstand drawer, about the check engine light that had been glowing in her car for 3 months, thought about Marcus's face when he'd fired her, about the pearl-wearing woman who'd looked away, about 14 hours on her feet for people who'd never see her as human. Because I'm tired of being invisible, she said quietly, and you looked at me like I mattered. Yoongi's expression shifted through several emotions too complex to name. You do matter, more than you know. The doors closed. The train lurched forward. By the time they reached Keisha's apartment building, a brick walk-up with peeling paint and a broken intercom, Yoongi's color had improved, but exhaustion lined his face. She led the group up 3 flights of stairs to her door, suddenly seeing her home through his eyes, the threadbare carpet, the flickering hallway light, the sound of someone's TV bleeding through thin walls. It's not much, she said, unlocking the door. It's honest, Yoongi replied, and she heard no judgment in his voice. That's rarer than you think. Inside, her apartment told its story in carefully maintained dignity. Second-hand furniture arranged with care. Destiny's artwork taped to the refrigerator. Medical textbooks stacked on a shelf, spines uncracked in years but never discarded. Everything clean, everything organized, everything speaking of someone who refused to let circumstances define worth. Scar did a quick sweep of the rooms, all 2 of them, while Yoongi sank onto her thrift store couch. One of the other men, introduced only as Tai, made a phone call in rapid Korean. The third man positioned himself by the window, watching the street below. The doctor will be here in 20 minutes, Tae reported. He's bringing a full kit. Your daughter, Yoongi said, gesturing to the photos on Keisha's bookshelf. How old? 7. Keisha filled a glass with water and brought it to him. Her name's Destiny. She's at my mother's place tonight, thank God. Thank God. Because I don't bring dangerous strangers into my home when she's here. Keisha sat in the armchair across from him. I have one rule, Yoongi. Whatever this is, whatever you think you owe me, my daughter stays separate from your world, completely separate. Agreed. His response was immediate, emphatic. Children are sacred. I would die before allowing harm to come to your child. The certainty in his voice surprised her. You mean that? My mother died when I was 12. Yoongi stared at the water glass in his hands. Heart attack on the train. Different line, same city, same indifference. People stepped over her, checked their watches, complained about the delay. By the time someone finally called for help, it was too late. Keisha's throat tightened. Yoongi, I joined my uncle's organization 3 months later, angry at a world where people could watch someone die rather than inconvenience themselves for 5 minutes. He looked up, and she saw tears threatening. Tonight, I collapsed in that restaurant, and I watched it happen again. Everyone looking away, everyone choosing comfort over compassion. I thought, this is karma. This is what I deserve for all the things I've done. Then you knelt beside me. He set down the water and leaned forward, elbows on knees, closing the distance between them. You lost your job for me. You brought me into your home, near the place where your daughter sleeps. You gave me what no one gave my mother, a chance. Not because you wanted something, but because it was right. A tear slipped down his cheek. Without thinking, Keisha reached out and caught it with her thumb. His hand covered hers, holding it against his face. I don't know how to repay that, he whispered, but I'll spend every day trying. The knock at the door broke the moment. Scar checked the peephole, then admitted an elderly Korean man carrying a leather medical bag. He spoke to Yoongi in their shared language, then began examining him with efficient movements. Keisha watched from her chair as the doctor checked vitals, drew blood, administered something from a vial. The conversation happened in Korean, but she caught English words scattered throughout. Toxin, levels, antidote, lucky. Finally, the doctor turned to her and spoke in accented but clear English. He will be fine, thanks to you. If he had waited, if he had tried to drive himself somewhere, the toxin would have caused cardiac arrest. You saved his life. I just called for help. You did more than that. The doctor packed his supplies. You gave him time. Sometimes that's everything. After the doctor left, Scar approached Keisha. We need to discuss security. What about it? The people who did this will know the boss survived. They'll look for him, and when they do, they'll find out about you. His scarred face was grave. That makes you a target. I can handle myself. Against trained killers? Scar shook his head. With respect, ma'am, this isn't street crime. These are professionals who've been waiting for an opportunity like this for months. So what do you suggest? Keisha asked, though unease was finally catching up with her adrenaline. I just hide forever? No. Yoongi stood, steadier now. You let me protect you, starting tonight. I told you, your daughter stays separate. I remember. He moved closer. But you, Keisha, you're in this now, whether we like it or not. The moment you helped me, you became important to me. And anything important to me becomes a target. That's not fair. Nothing about my world is fair. His voice gentled. But I can make it safer. Let me put guards on you and your daughter. Let me move you somewhere secure until this is resolved. Let me repay the debt by keeping you alive. Keisha thought about destiny, about her mother's small house with its easily pickable locks, about walking to the train alone at night. For how long? Until I've neutralized the threat. Yoongi's expression hardened, which will be soon, I promise you that. She studied his face, trying to see past the mask to the man beneath. What happens after? After the threat is gone and the debt is paid? That depends. He took another step closer, near enough now that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. Do you want there to be an after? Her breath caught. I don't even know you. Then let me tell you who I am. Yoongi's intensity filled the small space between them. I'm a man who's done terrible things to survive in a terrible world. I've hurt people. I've made decisions that keep me awake at night. I'm not good, Keisha. I'm probably not even redeemable. He paused, his eyes searching hers. But when you looked at me tonight, you didn't see a monster. You saw someone worth saving. That's the first time in 20 years I've felt like a person instead of a position. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I want to know what it's like to be worthy of that look. And if you'll let me, I want to spend time proving I can be." Keisha's heart hammered against her ribs. Every logical part of her brain screamed to refuse, to take his money and run, to protect herself and destiny from the chaos this man represented. But logic hadn't made her kneel beside him in that restaurant. Logic hadn't made her take his hand. Something deeper had. Something that recognized kinship in his isolation, understood his hunger for connection because she felt it too. "Okay," she heard herself say, "but we do this my way." "Name your terms." "First, I meet your people, all of them. I need to know who's protecting me and my daughter." She held up a finger when he started to speak. "Second, you're honest with me. Completely honest. No sugarcoating, no protecting me from reality. If I'm in danger, I need to know exactly what that means." "Agreed." "Third, I'm not some damsel to be hidden away. I have agency. I make my own decisions. You can advise, you can protect, but you don't control." A smile tugged at Yoongi's lips. "You're extraordinary, you know that?" "I'm practical." But she felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Fourth, this thing between us, whatever it is, we take it slow. I won't rush into something just because of adrenaline and gratitude." "How slow?" "Slow enough that I know it's real." She met his eyes. "Slow enough that destiny knows you're safe before she knows you're important to me. Slow enough that when I finally let myself feel what I'm feeling, I won't have to question it." Yoongi closed the remaining distance between them, his hands coming up to frame her face with surprising gentleness. "I can do slow. I've waited my whole life to feel this. I can wait a little longer to do it right." Then he kissed her forehead, the gesture so tender it made her throat ache, and stepped back. "Tae will take first watch," he said, his voice rougher. "Scar and Min Jun will patrol. I'll stay here on your couch if you'll allow it. In the morning, we'll move you and your mother and Destiny somewhere secure. Then I'll handle the people who created this problem." "Handle how?" His expression went cold. "However necessary. But you don't need to know the details." "You said complete honesty, and I meant it." Yoongi's jaw tightened. "But some truths are burdens you shouldn't carry. Trust me on that." Keisha wanted to argue, but exhaustion was finally catching up with her. 14 hours at work, the adrenaline crash, the emotional whiplash of the past 3 hours, it all hit at once. "Okay," she said quietly, "but tomorrow you tell me everything. Deal?" "Deal." She retreated to her bedroom, closing the door behind her. Through the thin walls, she heard Yoongi speaking in Korean, his voice low and commanding, making arrangements, protecting her. Keisha sat on her bed and pulled out her phone. 12 missed calls from Marcus, 6 texts from coworkers asking what happened, 1 message from her mother. "Destiny's asleep. She made you a drawing. Love you, baby." She typed back, "Love you too. Might need you to keep her tomorrow. I'll explain everything soon." Then she opened her banking app and stared at the number that had been slowly decreasing for months, the balance that barely covered next week's groceries. She'd lost her job tonight, thrown away 3 years of employment for a man she didn't know. But somehow, lying back on her worn comforter and listening to Yoongi's voice through the wall, Keisha didn't regret it. For the first time in years, she felt awake, like she'd been sleepwalking through life and something had shocked her back into vivid reality. Whatever came next, danger or security, heartbreak or happiness, at least it would be real. At least she would matter. Dawn came through Keisha's thin curtains like a reluctant promise. She woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of voices speaking Korean in her kitchen. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was, forgot the impossible sequence of events that had led to having armed men in her home. Then reality reassembled itself. She found Yoongi standing at her counter, looking incongruous in yesterday's expensive clothes, pouring coffee into her mismatched mugs. His men were gone, changed shifts, probably, replaced by two women she didn't recognize. One was young, maybe mid-20s, with calculating eyes. The other was older, her hair pulled into a severe bun. "This is Jia," Yoongi introduced the younger woman, "and this is Mrs. Pak. They'll be your security detail." "Women?" Keisha accepted the coffee mug, noting it was prepared exactly how she liked it. Had he gone through her cabinets, learned her preferences? "Men standing guard draw attention," Jia explained in unaccented English. "Women are invisible. We blend." "Besides," Mrs. Pak added with a slight smile, "we're better shots than the men. Don't tell Scar I said that." Despite everything, Keisha laughed. "Your secret's safe." Over the next hour, Yoongi laid out the plan. A secure apartment in Lincoln Park, already furnished, with a separate room for Destiny, guards rotating in 8-hour shifts, a car service to take Destiny to school and Keisha's mother anywhere she needed. Everything arranged, everything protected. "And the people who poisoned you?" Keisha asked. Yoongi's expression went flat. "Being handled as we speak." "That's not an answer." He set down his coffee. "You want honesty? Fine. My men identified the restaurant owner who facilitated the poisoning. He's been persuaded to reveal who hired him. That information led us to a mid-level enforcer in a rival organization. By tonight, their leadership will understand that attempting to kill me has consequences they're not prepared to face. You're going to kill them. I'm going to make them wish I had." Yoongi's voice carried no emotion. "But I'll stop short of that. Killing starts wars. Strategic humiliation ends them." Keisha absorbed this. "And that makes you different from them how?" "It probably doesn't." He met her eyes. "I told you I wasn't good, Keisha. I meant it." "But you draw lines." "I try to." She studied his face. This complicated man who'd crashed into her life with violence and vulnerability intertwined. "Show me." "Show you what?" "Your world, the real one, not the sanitized version." Keisha straightened her shoulders. "If I'm in this, if you're protecting me and Destiny, I need to understand exactly what that means. Take me with you today." "Absolutely not." "You said I had agency. You said I make my own decisions." "Not decisions that put you in danger," Yoongi countered. "What I'm doing today, you don't want to see it. Maybe not, but I need to." They stared at each other, wills clashing. Finally, Yoongi exhaled sharply. "You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met." "You're welcome." Against everyone's advice, Jia's concerned protest, Mrs. Pak's quiet disapproval, Scar's flat refusal until Yoongi overruled him, Keisha spent the day in Yoongi's world. She met his uncle, the aging Oyabun who'd built the organization from nothing, now retired but still commanding respect. She toured the legitimate businesses, the import company, the restaurant group, the real estate holdings. She sat in on a meeting where disputes were mediated, money changed hands, and Yoongi's words served as binding law. Then, as afternoon shadows lengthened, they drove to a warehouse in an industrial part of the city. "Last chance to wait in the car," Yoongi said. "No." Inside, the warehouse was cold and echoing. In the center, tied to a chair, sat a man in his 30s. His face was bruised but not beaten. Strategic pain, not sadistic violence. Two of Yoongi's men flanked him. Yoongi approached the prisoner and spoke in Korean. The exchange was terse, the prisoner's responses defiant at first, then increasingly desperate. Keisha didn't understand the words, but she understood the dynamic. Power and powerlessness, threat and compliance. Finally, Yoongi returned to where Keisha stood by the door. "He's given us everything. Names, locations, plans. His organization will be dismantled by morning." "What happens to him?" "He goes home with a message tattooed into his memory. Stay away from what's mine." Yoongi watched her face carefully. No permanent damage, no death. Just fear that will keep him in line. "And if he doesn't? Then I'll do what's necessary." He touched her arm gently. "But I'll try every other option first. That's the line I draw, Keisha. I'll be ruthless, but not unnecessarily cruel. I'll protect what's mine with everything I have, but I won't become a monster in the process. She looked at the prisoner, then at Yoongi, then at her own hands. She should feel revulsion, should be horrified by this glimpse into organized crime. Instead, she felt a strange understanding. This wasn't so different from the violence she'd grown up around, the territorial disputes and power struggles that played out in her old neighborhood. The difference was honesty. Yoongi didn't pretend to be respectable while doing terrible things. He owned what he was. "Okay," she said quietly. "I've seen enough." That evening, Yoongi took her to the Lincoln Park apartment, a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. It was beautiful and impersonal, designed for luxury but not life. "You hate it," he observed. "It's not home." Keisha walked to the windows, watching lights sparkle across the water. "But it's safe. That's what matters." What would make it feel like home? She turned to face him. Destiny's drawings on the refrigerator, my books on the shelves, evidence that real people live here, not just expensive furniture. "Then we'll make that happen." Yoongi moved closer. "Whatever you need." "What I need," Keisha said slowly, "is to understand what this is, what we are. Because I'm not naive, Yoongi. I know how this looks. Poor black woman, rich Asian gangster. It reads like a fantasy, like Pretty Woman with better clothes and worse morals. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what this is." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I know I'm attracted to you. I know you've been generous and protective. I know I should probably be more afraid than I am. But I don't know if this is real or if it's just adrenaline and gratitude creating something that can't survive normal life." Yoongi closed the distance between them, his hands coming to rest on her shoulders. "You want to know what this is? It's the first time in 20 years I've felt human. It's looking at you and seeing someone who makes me want to be better than what I am. It's terrifying and exhilarating and probably insane, but it's the most real thing I've ever experienced." "But is it sustainable?" Keisha pressed. "When the danger passes and the adrenaline fades, will you still look at me like I matter? Will I still see the man instead of the monster?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I want to find out, don't you?" Before she could answer, her phone rang, her mother's number. "Hey, Mama." "Baby, is everything okay? You sounded strange in your message." Keisha glanced at Yoongi, then made a decision. "Mama, I need you to listen without interrupting. I lost my job at Apex last night. I helped someone who was in trouble, and I got fired for it. That someone has offered to help me in return, but it's complicated. I need you to keep Destiny for a few more days while I sort things out." A pause. Then, "This someone, are they dangerous?" "Potentially. But they're protecting you?" "Yes." Another pause. "You're my daughter. I raised you to help people, even when it's hard. If you think this is right, I trust you. But Keisha, baby, you be careful. Destiny needs her mama." "I know, Mama, I will." After she hung up, Yoongi was watching her with that intense focus. "Your mother trusts you." "My mother raised me to trust myself." Keisha pocketed her phone. "Which is why I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to listen." "I'm listening." "I'm not some broken thing that needs fixing. I'm not a charity case or a project or a way for you to feel better about your choices." She stepped closer, closing the gap he'd left. "I'm a woman who's survived poverty and abuse and single motherhood. I'm strong on my own. I don't need you to save me." "I know that." "Good. Because if we're doing this, if we're actually exploring whatever this is, it has to be between equals. You bring your power and your resources and your protection. Fine. But I bring my strength and my wisdom and my moral compass. We balance each other. We don't complete each other. We complement each other. Deal?" Yoongi's smile was slow and genuine. "Deal. And one more thing." "What's that?" "Slow is officially over." Keisha pulled him down and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was days of tension releasing, fear transforming into desire, two people choosing each other despite impossible odds. His hands tangled in her hair, her fingers gripped his shirt. They broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "Okay," Yoongi managed, "slow is over. But smart isn't." Keisha stepped back, creating space. "I need to see Destiny tomorrow. Need to make sure she's okay before I bring her into this new situation. And you need to finish handling your business. Make sure we're actually safe." "Agreed. Then we take it from there." She touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw. "Together as equals, as partners." "As partners," he echoed. 3 months later, Keisha sat in the lecture hall of Northwestern University, her new tablet open to the anatomy notes she'd been reviewing. Around her, younger students chattered about their weekends, their easy lives untouched by the kind of complexity that had become Keisha's normal. Her phone buzzed with a text from Yoongi. "How's class?" "Educational," she typed back. "Professor's boring, but the material is fascinating. Destiny asked if we could get Thai food tonight. I told her only if she finishes her homework first." Keisha smiled. Yoongi had been coming to Sunday dinners for 6 weeks now, gradually integrating into her daughter's life with careful patience. Destiny adored him, especially when he taught her Korean words or helped with math homework. "Tell her yes, I'll be home by 6. Home." I liked the sound of that. She did too. The Lincoln Park penthouse had transformed over 3 months, filled now with Destiny's artwork and Keisha's books and evidence of real life. It wasn't perfect. Yoongi's work still pulled him into dangerous situations, and Keisha still struggled with the moral compromises his world required. But it was real. They'd fought. They'd negotiated boundaries. They'd learned to balance her need for normalcy with his need for security. Slowly, carefully, they'd built something that resembled a life. After class, Jia met her at the building entrance. The security detail had become so normal Keisha barely noticed it anymore. They drove to Destiny's school where Mrs. Pak waited with her daughter. "Mama!" Destiny ran to her, backpack bouncing. "I got an A on my science project." "That's wonderful, baby." Keisha swept her up, breathing in the scent of her daughter's hair, that unique combination of kid shampoo and playground dust. "I'm so proud of you. Can we show Yoongi? He helped me with the volcano." "We'll definitely show him." At the penthouse, Yoongi was cooking, a skill he'd been teaching himself through YouTube videos and phone calls to his late mother's friends. The kitchen smelled like garlic and sesame oil, and soft music played from the speakers. "There's my favorite scientist," he called when they entered. "How was school?" Destiny launched into an enthusiastic explanation of her project, while Keisha watched from the doorway. This man, who commanded respect through fear in his professional life, crouched to Destiny's level to admire her poster board with genuine interest. Later, after dinner and homework and Destiny's bedtime routine, Keisha and Yoongi sat on the balcony overlooking the lake. The spring air was cool but not cold, carrying the scent of thawing earth and new beginnings. "I got an offer today," Keisha said, breaking the comfortable silence. "For what?" "After I graduate nursing school, there's a position at Northwestern Memorial, trauma unit. Good hours, excellent pay, opportunity to specialize." She turned to face him. "It's everything I wanted before life got complicated." "That's incredible." Yoongi took her hand. "You should take it. It means long shifts, irregular hours. I'd need reliable childcare." "You have reliable childcare. Mrs. Pak loves Destiny, and when she's not available, I am." He squeezed her fingers. "I want you to have the life you deserve, Keisha, the career you worked for. Don't hold yourself back because of me." "What about us? What about your work?" "My work is stabilizing. The territory disputes have settled. My uncle has officially retired, leaving me in charge, which means I can shape things differently." Yoongi's expression was thoughtful. "I've been thinking about what you said that first night, about drawing lines, about being worthy of your good opinion." "And?" And I want to shift the organization toward more legitimate operations, keep the protection and mediation services, but phase out the gray market activities. It won't happen overnight, but—" He looked at her. "You make me want to be better. So I'm going to be." Keisha felt tears prick her eyes. "That's a big change." "You were a big change, the best one I've ever made." He pulled her closer. "I love you, Keisha Monroe. I love your courage and your stubbornness and the way you see the world. I love that you challenge me to be more than what I was raised to be. I love that you let me into your life and your daughter's life, despite every reason not to." "I love you too," she whispered. "Even though you're complicated and dangerous and sometimes morally questionable, because you're also kind and protective and trying to be better, because you looked at me like I mattered when no one else did. You've always mattered. The world just didn't know how to see it." They kissed as the lights of Chicago sparkled below them, two people from different worlds who'd found unexpected connection in a moment of crisis. It wouldn't always be easy. Yoongi's past would continue to create complications. Keisha's principles would continue to challenge his methods. Destiny would have questions as she grew older, and those questions would require honest answers. But they would face it together. Inside the penthouse, Destiny slept safely in her room, surrounded by her drawings and books and stuffed animals. In the kitchen, remnants of their family dinner sat on the counter, waiting to be cleaned. Throughout the apartment, evidence of their blended life created a tapestry of belonging. Keisha had knelt beside a dying stranger because it was the right thing to do. She'd never imagined it would lead here, to love and family and a future that felt limitless. But looking at Yoongi's face in the soft glow of the balcony lights, feeling his arms around her and knowing Destiny was safe and loved, she knew she'd make that choice again, every single time. Because some people walked past those who needed help. Some people chose comfort over compassion. But not Keisha Monroe. She'd stopped. She'd helped. And in that moment of mercy, she'd found everything she'd been searching for. The weight of that choice, the responsibility of loving a complicated man, of building a life at the intersection of two worlds, of raising a daughter to be brave and kind in a world that often punished both. It was heavy. But Keisha had learned long ago how to carry weight. And this weight she carried gladly.